Hello, welcome back to today's pharmacology session. Today, we are moving from what drugs do to how much they do and who is in charge at the receptor level. We are talking quantitative pharmacodynamics and drug classification. So, let's start with measuring the drug power. That's the dose response curves. Last time we talked about the drugs being like keys for specific receptors, that is the locks. Now let's look at how we measure the power of those keys, that is the drugs. Imagine you are trying to light up a room using a dimmer switch. That is like slowly turning up the dimmer switch in one single room. As you increase the power, the light gets brighter gradually. It's a continuous measurable response. So by this is how we explain graded dose response curves. And at some point, we could not see the rise in the intensity of light anymore, and there it gets constant. So it's represented by a sigmoidal curve. And here we say two terms, Emax and EC50. Emax is the maximal efficacy and EC50 is the potency. By Emax, we say like this is the brightest the light can possibly get, no matter how much more you turn on the dimmer. It's the maximum effect the drug can produce. And EC50, it's the potency. This is the exact point on the dimer where the light is half as bright as its maximum. So it's like the 50%, like the half of the dimer. A drug with low EC50 is potent. It can get the light half bright with very little turn of the dimer. It means you need less of the drug to get half its full effect. And next we see quantal dose response curves. Now imagine you have a whole street of houses and you are testing how many lights turn on in different houses as you slowly increase the power to the street. Each house either has its light on or off. There is no in between, like half on or half off, etc. So here we have three terms, and together these things represent quantal dose response curves. So the three terms I spoke about are ED50, TD50 and LD50. ED50 is the median effective dose. This is the dose where the lights in 50% of the houses turn on. So 50% of the people show desired effect. And TD50, it's the median toxic dose. This is the dose where 50% of the houses on the street start showing smoke detectors going off. There is some defect in the case, or maybe some side effects. So here 50% of the people show toxic side effect. And LD50, so it's median lethal dose. This is the dose where unfortunately the lights in 50% of the houses burn out permanently. That is 50% of the animals in the study die. And the next term we see is our therapeutic index. This is our safety measure for drugs. It's the wiggle room between dose that works and the dose that causes harms. It's mathematically represented by TD50 by ED50. A high TI means you have a wide margin. So you can significantly increase the dose from what works to what's toxic. It's like a car with good brakes. You can drive fast but stop safely. A low TI means a narrow margin. The effect dose is very close to the toxic dose. These drugs are like driving a car with bad brakes. You need to be very careful with the speed. That is the dose. Drugs like warfarin, it's a good blood thinner, and digoxin, it's used for heart failure. So these are famous examples with narrow therapeutic indices requiring careful monitoring. Lithium is also an example. And then we have drug classification, like who is driving the car. Let's switch analogies. Imagine your receptor is a car and the natural signal, like neurotransmitter or a drug, is someone who's trying to drive it. It's easy. So just like the driver sits on the car, our drug is going to sit on the receptor. So here we have two people, agonists, the drivers. An agonist is like someone who gets into the car, turns the key and makes it go. It binds to the receptor and produces a response. So here we have three types. Full agonist. So this is a confident driver who floors the accelerator and gets the car going at its maximum speed. They produce maximal possible effect, like we could say 100% efficacy. Partial agonist. This driver gets in, puts their foot on the accelerator, but only gently. They can make the car move, but never reach its top speed. Like, he's the hesitant driver. Even with a lot of effort like sub-maximal response is seen. Interestingly, if a full agonist is present, the partial agonist might take up a seat and prevent the full agonist from achieving full speed, acting a bit like an antagonist in that situation. Inverse agonist. So the previous case, the partial agonist. So there are two drivers in a car. The one is a full agonist, and the other one is a part agonist. Maybe he's experienced, and this guy is not. So when the less experienced guy occupies his seat, the journey, the speed of the journey decreases. So it doesn't work the way we expect it to go. And next, we jump back to inverse agonist. This is a tricky one. Imagine the car has a default forward creep even when no one is pressing the pedal. An inverse agonist gets in and actually puts the car into reverse, stopping that default creep and possibly even backing it up. They produce an effect opposite to a full agonist by stabilizing the receptor in an inactive state. So it basically keeps a check on the system. And then we have antagonists, the blockers. An antagonist is like someone who sits in the driver's seat but doesn't make the car go. Instead, they just prevent the actual driver from getting in and starting the car by just simply occupying the place so that this one doesn't have place to sit and drive. So they block the effect of agonists. Here we have 4 types. Competitive agonists. This person races to the driver's seat and sits there. If a real driver comes along, they can push the competitive agonist out if they're strong enough, like if there is enough agonist concentration. The car still can go full speed, but you need more real drivers. And the non-competitive type, this person might glue themselves into the driver's seat or maybe even slash the tires from the passenger seat. They typically prevent the car from ever reaching its full speed, no matter how many real drivers try to get in. You can't overcome them by simply adding more agonist. So they go into irreversible binding. And then we have physiological type of antagonists. Okay, so this isn't about the car at all. Someone might try to drive one car, but a physiological antagonist drives a different car on a different road to achieve the opposite effect. For say, a drug that lowers blood pressure by relaxing blood vessels via one receptor may be a physiological antagonist to a hormone that raises blood pressure by constricting them via a different receptor. So it's like 2 different systems acting somewhere else, to indirectly antagonist another system. Then we have chemical type of antagonist. This isn't about the car or the road either. A chemical antagonist just destroys the driver before they even get to any car. For say, a drug that directly binds to and neutralizes a toxin in the bloodstream. So whether we are measuring how much of a drug has with dose response curves or classifying drugs by how they interact with the target receptors, these concepts are fundamental to understand pharmacology. They empower us to predict drugs' effects or even empower the examiners to throw us out of the halls. And they also help us manage the side effects, ultimately use medicine safely and effectively. That's all for this episode. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to review these fascinating principles, and we'll catch you next time with an easier way to ratta the biochem or maybe the pharmacology. Bye bye.